Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to go through some of my favorite indicators. So there are a ton of technical indicators, and I've mentioned this before in previous videos as well. There are so many indicators that you can utilize. These are the ones over the past 5 or 6 years that I've really utilized and implemented into my strategy. And these ones that I'm going to show you today are the ones that I actually use on a day-to-day basis. I don't condone the usage of so many different indicators. I think that you need to find a couple, 1 or 2, maybe 3 really good indicators that you utilize on a day-to-day basis and you can really implement into your specific strategy. I just want to say, back when I first started trading, I did use a lot of indicators. I've used RSI, MACD, all of those ones. I stopped utilizing them. I just think that they can be a hindrance into your trading. So the ones that I'm going to go through today, I utilize as a guide. I don't use any technical indicator for an entry or an exit position. I kind of utilize them as a guide as I'm in a trade or as I'm looking to enter a position. That being said, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button, and let's go ahead and get started. All right, guys, so right here I have ES's chart. It's a clean chart here. I have to rechart ES anyway, so I thought this was a perfect opportunity to kind of go ahead and show you how I add my indicators and how I utilize those indicators. So you can see no levels, no indicators, no nothing, clean chart. So the first indicator that I'm going to go through is called VWAP, and I've gone through this one before because it is one of my favorite indicators, and I think it is the most helpful indicator, especially if you are a beginner trader. So you want to go into, sorry, I went fast. If you want to go into studies, edit studies, and type in VWAP, depending on what platform you use. I use Thinkorswim, and you want to double click. Once you have that on there, you want to go into the settings aspect of VWAP here, and you want to, so VWAP is 3 bands, okay? It's an upper, lower, and then the actual VWAP band. I don't use the upper and lower bands. I only just use that middle band, which is VWAP. So if I were to just hit apply here, it'll apply 3 different lines here. This is your upper band, lower band, and middle band VWAP. VWAP is an intraday indicator, meaning that you can only utilize it on an intraday time frame. 2, 1, 5, 15, anything over 15 minute. I usually find that it's not very helpful. I like to utilize the VWAP on the 5 and 2 minute time frames. They are the most helpful time frames in my opinion. Like I said, it is an intraday indicator. So you want to go back into those studies, and I'm going to remove the upper and lower bands. So you go into upper and uncheck all of these boxes, lower, uncheck all of these boxes. Press OK, hit apply. There is your VWAP level. Now with VWAP, how I like to utilize VWAP is mostly I utilize VWAP on every ticker. I really hone in on VWAP when it comes to futures. So if, for example, futures is trending above its VWAP level, both futures are trending above its VWAP level, I will not usually look to take puts if they're both trending above VWAP. If both futures are trending below VWAP, I usually don't look to take calls. So depending on where futures is trending in correspondence with its VWAP will depend on if I'm buying calls or if I'm buying puts. To the upside, you want to focus more on calls, and to the downside, you want to focus more on puts. Usually market's momentum is bearish if it's to the downside, and market momentum is bullish if it's to the upside. Now this goes for most tickers. Another thing that you can utilize VWAP for is for support and resistance levels. So for example, sometimes what you'll see is the stock comes back down, retests VWAP, not really able to hold. We get the bounce off of VWAP and a continuation back up. Sometimes you'll see VWAP is a level of resistance. So you can see here, continue to try and break back above VWAP, rejected here, and then made a move down, came back up, held VWAP a little bit until it finally broke, and we got a little bit of a choppiness. But you can see here that it's holding VWAP and holding VWAP as resistance. And until it breaks above VWAP, you're not going to be able to get that bullish momentum. And if it breaks below VWAP, you're not going to be able to get that bearish momentum. Okay. You can also see this, like I said, on any ticker. Let me move these other ones so you guys can see. Okay, so similar aspect here on Tesla. You can see here had a little bit of a move in the morning above its VWAP, broke below VWAP. You could potentially take a position once the stock breaks below VWAP, and you could take a position once the stock breaks above VWAP. If it is trending below VWAP and it starts to make a move back above its VWAP, you could potentially look to take calls. If it's trending above the VWAP and you can see that it's starting to approach and it could potentially break, you could take puts to the downside. So you can see here a break below VWAP for puts. and then a break above VWAP for calls. And you can see that once it did break, it retested. You could wait for the retest and then enter on the retest as well. So this could have been an entry here, and this retest could have been an entry here as well for calls. And then right here, this could have been an entry for puts as well. So VWAP is great for entry and exit points, determining bearish or bullish momentum in comparison to futures, and then using it as a resistance and support level as it goes to retest its VWAP. VWAP is known as market equilibrium. So usually if a stock goes too far above VWAP or too far below VWAP, it tends to come back and retest that before continuing on its trend. Okay. So that is VWAP. I do have a really in-depth video on VWAP on my page. I will link below if you guys are interested in just this indicator. Okay. The next indicator that we have is going to be our moving averages. Okay. So I use the exponential moving averages, and I use two. I use the 9 and 21. Now, some people use different moving averages. Some people use the 9 and 20. Some people use the 10 and 20. It really depends. On a smaller time frame, when I'm looking to scalp or day trade, I use the 9 and 21. On the bigger time frames, when I'm looking to potentially swing a position, I'm usually using the 200-day EMA. Or 200 EMA. So the 9 and 21 are for scalping and day trading. If I'm looking for a potential bigger play or swing trade, I will use the 200 EMA on the higher time frame. So the 200 EMA you want to use on the daily, 4-hour, weekly time frames. The 9 and 21 EMAs you can use on anything from the hourly down. You can use it on the 4-hour as well. I have seen that it worked on the 4-hour. On the weekly or daily time frames, I don't think that they work that well in my personal opinion. I like to use a higher EMA, but definitely on the intraday time frames, these are my favorite ones to use. So I add 2 EMAs. I use the 9, and if you hit this little gear icon, you can change the color. You can change whatever aspect that you want. I usually make mine orange for the 9, and then the higher EMA, I will come up here and you can change the length to whatever you want. It's always defaulted to 9. So I'm going to change mine to 21. And I'm going to make that yellow. And there you go. There's a 9 and 21 EMA. You want to hit apply. There are your EMAs with your VWAP. Now, a good way already just off the bat, there's a couple of things that you can utilize EMAs for. One, EMAs are kind of like trend lines. They're going to show you the overall trend of the stock. They're going to show you the overall momentum on that stock. And I think they're really, really helpful if you are struggling with drawing trend lines or looking for trends. EMAs are going to be your best friend because they're going to help make that a lot easier. They're going to visually show you, hey, this is what the trend is because it's holding its VWAP to the upside, or if it's holding its VWAP to the downside. So for example, if the stock is trending to the upside, what you will see, and that is trending fully above its 9 and 21 EMA. Okay. So as long as the stock is trending above the 9 and 21 EMA, so for example, just off of this example on Tesla, you can see that Tesla started to approach its VWAP. It was trending below both of its EMAs, started to approach its VWAP, broke above its VWAP. Not only did it break above its VWAP, but you get this EMA cross. So whenever you get the smaller EMA, so smaller EMA is the orange line, the higher EMA is my yellow line. Whenever you get the smaller EMA cross above the higher EMA, it usually signifies a golden cross. What this usually means that the stock could potentially reverse into an uptrend. Not only did it break the EMAs, you get the cross, you then get the stock above its VWAP. This is a high probability setup for calls. So you would enter here for calls to your next profit target. If you are waiting for the pullback and retest, what it will do is, like I said, retest its VWAP. But even here, you can see that it not only retested VWAP, but it held that 21 EMA on the 5-minute as well. You can see that when it bounced, this candle bounced above its EMA and its VWAP. This would be a good entry for calls as well. And as long as it trends above that 9 EMA, it is a significant trend. You can see that it pulled back to 21 and then bounced again. Again, when it pulls back like this to the 21 EMA, you can see on this candle here, we got a little bit of a wicking to the downside, which usually signifies that there are buyers present. So this candle, plus the fact that it bounced off of that 21 EMA and that it's holding on the 21 EMA, this would be a potential entry for calls as well on the bounce of the EMA back up. Okay, so you had 1, 2, 3 entries just looking at EMAs and VWAP, not looking at any levels. Obviously, You want to use this in conjunction with price action. Your support and resistance levels always come first. Okay, so just want to make sure everyone is aware before I go through all of this. I should have said this in the beginning. Your support and resistance levels always come first. So whatever levels you have charted, you want to also pay attention to that as well. And those are going to be your profit targets. If you take entry, let's say, because it crossed VWAP, your profit targets, your stop losses are going to be based not only off of VWAP or EMAs, but it's also going to be based off of your support and resistance levels to the upside or to the downside. Those are going to be your profit targets. Those are what you're usually going to use as a stop loss. Another thing that I like to use, speaking of stop losses, on the EMAs and even on VWAP, is utilize them as a stop loss. So whenever the stock pulls back, like you can see right here, the stop here would be my VWAP or my EMAs here. Right here, bounced off of both and continued up. Over here, if I entered somewhere around here, let's say, and it's holding the 9 and 21 EMA, as long as it holds that EMA, that would be my stop. Okay? And then obviously depending on whatever other factors. So I'm just going to show you guys an example here. So Tesla made a high of day here. Okay, we're going to set this at around 214. Actually 213.50, let's say. Okay, so this was kind of its high of day. Made a move up, pulled back, broke above VWAP. Now we're getting a little bit of an uptrend, pulls back. This is your first entry. Target is going to be high of day. Okay, if you enter here or if you enter here, target is going to be high of day because that's the next significant level that Tesla has. Now you can see that right at high of day, it does pull back. Okay, so what's the next level? You could take the bounce here on VWAP, but the more significant play would be the bounce off of, not VWAP, the bounce off of its EMAs, but also the break of high of day. This candle would be a perfect entry here to your next level of resistance on Tesla. Okay, so 213.50 entry with a 215 target on Tesla. All right, so this, you can see how much clearer the picture looks now that I added a level. Okay, so you can see that when we entered here, look at how perfectly it pulled back at high of day. Okay, it pulled back at high of day. What's the next entry? Bounces off as its EMA, breaks high of day. Okay, if you take the bounce here, you should anticipate that there could be some resistance at high of day because that's more significant than just taking the bounce off of its EMAs. So that's why I would more than likely wait for the break of high of day here. On top of that, you get the bounce off of your EMAs. So this is just another guide here. It's another indication that the stock could potentially make a move up. And there you get a nice little scalp to the upside. Okay. Again, all three of these you can use on any ticker. Let's say you want to go into NVIDIA. Okay. Another thing that you should pay attention to is if the stock is trending like this, okay? So if you see the stock trending just on top of its VWAP, it keeps coming back, retesting that VWAP. Usually it signifies it's a choppy day. If you see the stock just trending in between its VWAP like this, usually signifies it's a choppy day. If you don't see the stock fully trending above its 9 and 21 EMAs, like what you should usually see, what I like to see on a significant trend is it is fully above that 9 EMA. There is some distance between where the stock is trending and where its 9 EMA is sitting. If there is no distance, you can see here, usually signifies it's not a strong trend. If there's no distance to the downside, not a strong trend. You can see there's no distance in between where the candles are trending and where the EMAs are sitting. And you can see overall NVIDIA is very choppy on the day. Okay, so there should be some distance when you get a trend. Okay, there should be distance between not only that 9 EMA, but its VWAP as well. And you can see when it rejects here, comes back down, what does it use as support? VWAP, support, support, support. It's not until really till the end of the day, if maybe it had more time, we could have seen it move down, but there's really no trend on NVIDIA here. If it did break its VWAP, because it touched VWAP twice, if it did break VWAP, it would have been a significant scalp to the downside. That would have been a good play to take. Okay, but as long as it is trending like this, usually signifies a choppy day. If you don't see significant trend above or below its EMAs or above or below its VWAP, usually signifies that it's choppy. What I want to show you guys is how to look for a trend. So let's say you're day trading a stock, okay? Okay, let's say you entered, this is the high of day on SPX 4370. let's say you enter SPX at the break of 43.70. You start to see that it's bouncing off of its EMAs. It's trending above the 9 EMA. You enter on this candle. Let's say you're looking for a day trade or you're looking for multiple profit targets. As long as the stock continues to trend above that 9 EMA, the trend is a strong trend and continues to the upside. You can use this 9 EMA as a stop loss, okay? You can use, like I said, they use them as trend lines. Look at how clean this trend is. Makes a move up, pulls back to that 9 EMA. Makes a move up, pulls back to that 9 EMA. Makes a move up, pulls back to that 9 EMA. On every single candle, it is not able to hold below that 9 EMA and continues up. As long as it holds above that 9 EMA, the trend is intact. You can see throughout the entire day that trend is intact, okay? We start to get a little bit of a slowdown here towards the middle of the day, but overall, the trend is intact, okay? It does not ever break that trend all day. You can also use it for entry. Look at this. This is not only a pullback into its EMA. Look at this. Little bear pennant, okay? Breaks out, bounces off EMA, breaks out of the bear pennant or bull pennant, entry for calls, okay? Comes back down. Again, we get a little bit of a retest and a bull flag here. Bounces off EMA, retests EMA, breaks out a bull flag, entry. Okay, so there's multiple ways that you can utilize EMAs as trend lines, stop losses, support and resistance levels, entry points. You can use them as a guide. Now, like I said, you don't want to just base it off of what you see on EMAs and your VWAP. These are utilized as guides. All technical indicators lag, so you don't want to use them as a leading indicator because that's not what it's going to show you. You want to utilize order flow, obviously price action first, and then utilize these as a guide to confirm what you think is going to happen or what you anticipate to happen in the market, okay, or your trading plan. Okay, these are to confirm your trading plan. All right, the next two indicators that I want to go through, and these are the last two, and they both kind of show similar things. So they're volume indicators. The first one is you're going to go into studies, edit studies, and then you're just going to add volume average. Okay, so it's this indicator, and I don't change anything on this indicator. I leave it as is. I hit apply. What it does, it shows you overall volume on the stock with a moving average. So say 50 moving average here. So it'll show you where the volume is in comparison to that moving average. And I think that's why it's a little bit more helpful than other volume indicators, because you can visually see if volume is high or low. So whenever volume is trending above that moving average, it usually signifies that it is significant volume and it is a significant trend. Whenever volume starts to break below or be below that moving average line, usually signifies that there's not a volume in the market, and usually you won't see a trend. And you can see here in the morning there was a lot of volume on that stock. Once the volume dipped, you can see that the stock ended up being choppy for the rest of the day. It didn't have a trend in place. Okay, and you can also kind of see over here trend to the downside. Overall, throughout the entire day, that volume to the downside, the bearish volume held. The bullish volume, you can see that every time that we got some pullback, the volume dropped. Okay, stock made a move down, pullback, volume dropped. So whenever you see that the stock is trending a certain way and it's looking to pull back, if on that pullback this volume drops and dips, usually signifies it's a pullback and not a reversal, and the trend is still in place. So you can see here volume dipped, pick back up, and then right here volume dipped. On the pullback, volume dipped, okay, dropped, pullback, volume picked back up on the drop. On the dip, volume dipped as well, okay. On the pullback, volume dipped, pick back up, okay. So whenever you see a stock pull back, you also want to see the volume on the volume average pull back as well. So it should be hand in hand. Volume average should pull back as the stock is pulling back. If you see that volume is holding and it's holding significant to the bearish volume as well, it usually signifies that it could potentially reverse, or there's not a significant trend in place and the stock is choppy. An example of that, let's see where we had a little bit of choppiness over here, okay. So you can see we had a little bit of a move in the morning. Usually in the first 30 minutes to an hour, volume is always high anyways in the market, so you don't want to utilize it too heavily in the morning, but still it kind of shows you overall volume on the bearish side keeps spiking up. Every time it pulls back, that volume drops here. Okay, over here we can start to see a pullback. Volume is still pretty low here, and then throughout the rest of the day, even on this drop here, volume is significantly lower than what we saw in the morning. Okay, again, now it gets into a move up. Still, volume is very low, so usually signifies that there's not a strong trend in place, and usually signifies that it's a choppy market. So whenever you see that volume is holding as the stock is trending to either side, usually signifies that it's a significant trend, and every time that that trend pulls back, you want to see volume pull back. Okay, so this is the first volume indicator that I use. The second one is actually, I've recently started using it, and it's through BOOKMAP, and I mentioned this on my BOOKMAP video, and I think it's a really helpful indicator. It's so easy to see volume on this, so let's go ahead and go through it. All right, guys, and the last indicator that I'm going to go through is actually found on BOOKMAP. So I did do a video on BOOKMAP, the last video I posted. You guys can go ahead and watch that to get kind of an understanding of what is BOOKMAP and how to utilize BOOKMAP. But I'm going to show you guys one of the indicators that I actually really love on BOOKMAP that is so easy. It makes it so easy to see volume and who has control of the market between buyers and sellers. So if you want to go to configure add-ons here, and you would have to add market pulse. So I already have mine here. So if I uncheck this, you just go to add or manage add-ons here. And then you want to make sure market pulse will be down here. You just want to hit install, and then it'll install the market pulse. And I already have mine installed. So you just want to click it. And once you click it, what will happen is, so once you click it, you'll have this little pop-up here that'll come up, and what you want to do is come down to where it says liquidation pressure and come down to volume pressure here. Okay, once you have it, you can click volume pressure for any of the tickers that you're watching, whether it's ES, NASDAQ, Apple, whatever the case may be. I'm going to keep mine on ES. I'm going to keep the threshold the same, and we're going to press play. So once you have that, you'll get this little widget, and it's literally ES's volume pressure. So it's going to show you sellers and buyers, obviously, and then it has this little line here that's the 70% threshold. So what will happen is, if it goes past that 70% threshold, you'll actually get a notification, and it'll like make this sound to notify you that either sellers or buyers have passed the 70% threshold, and one is more significant than the other, and one is taking control of the market. I don't think this is running properly on my MacBook because it's usually in the hundreds of thousands / millions, what you'll see on this ticker. This is not accurate numbers here. I think it's because I'm running it on my MacBook. So I run this on my PC, and what you'll see is like in the hundreds of thousands / millions of selling and buying pressure when it comes to the volume. So let's say you're in a position to the upside and your stock is approaching your profit target and you're in calls. As it's approaching that profit target, if you start to see sellers step in, if you start to see that volume on sellers pick up, that should make you aware that there is sellers at that specific level, and you could potentially take profit prior to exactly hitting that level. So this really, really helps with just understanding volume in itself in the move, and then 2, entries and exits. So as the stock is approaching a specific level that you want to enter, is there buyers there? Is there sellers there? Is the stock breaking through that level as we're getting volume onto either side? Who has control of the market? And I think it's really simple to see this versus looking at it like this. Sometimes you're not able to get an accurate depiction. Even though this is very helpful, this gives you a very accurate depiction of who really has control of the market at that time, or who has control of ES, or who has control of Apple, or whatever ticker that you personally are watching. You can use volume pressure for that specific ticker. Okay, so this is a really, really helpful tool. I started using it, I would say about a month and a half ago, and I really, really enjoy utilizing it. I think it's easy to see, especially if you're a newer trader. It's just really simplified volume, so you don't have to look at multiple different things to figure it out. Alright guys, so that's it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions, comments, any video suggestions, anything you'd like to see on my strategy, go ahead and comment it down below as well, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!